Hello, GRCSU, and welcome to another episode of Coffee with Coaches. And Corey and Al are here with me today. And today, Corey is going to talk with us about upcoming holidays.
Yeah. So, I guess, really thinking about Thanksgiving coming up, but even beyond that with our winter holidays, just thinking about, how we teach those holidays and how we teach them in a culturally responsive way. I guess this is some work that our team has been talking about for a while, looking at through an equity lens with a lot of what we do, and we've put some modules and resources out there, but maybe narrowing it down so that it's a little bit more specific to Thanksgiving and then all of those holidays within winter, beyond just Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa, which I think are the three that we typically hit upon as teachers. That just what else is out there and how do we teach it? So I know for me in my journey in trying to educate myself in this, I attended a training, a webinar, whatever you want to call it, that Tarrant put on, and just really eye-opening in what I thought culturally responsive teaching of Thanksgiving was versus perhaps what it really is. And I think I was going into it really thinking about still thinking about Thanksgiving as I celebrate it, and taking that and still having it kind of be like the main chunk, and how do I just tweak it a little bit to make it so that I'm teaching it in a more responsible way. And it is so so far from what I need to really be doing, or what we as teachers really need to be doing with our students. So I just thought that we could go over some of the resources that I gathered from that, and then other resources that are out there that teachers can use as these holidays are coming up. So I guess the first thing that we can do is go in. We've got a couple modules on the website. So I thought we could go in and take a look at the website and those modules, and then explore a couple of the resources. So let's see. Share my screen. There we go. Okay. So I have the GRCSU website right here. And maybe it's best to start from the beginning, just in case we're not quite as familiar with it. So we have our professional learning page, which is where all of our modules that we use for in-services live, and you have access to them all the time. And if you scroll down, you have our different categories. So we're going to be looking at the equity category. And we have a lot of resources, more than we had back in the spring, which is great. And we're constantly adding to this. So the first one that I think is worth pointing out is this one. Erica developed this one, I think, for the October in-service, but it just kind of gives us that start with having a culturally responsive classroom. And this is more of a general overview and looking at holidays in general, rather than being super specific. So, she starts off by asking you to just reflect on, a typical classroom holiday celebration. I mean, it's, I know as a kid, that was one of my favorite things, was the class parties. And then as a teacher, I love them too. But how are we celebrating those holidays, and what holidays are we celebrating? And then we just have other resources. There's a short video talking about cultural identity and why that's really important, and how we can use cultural identity to start driving some of our teaching. And it really starts making it personal for students. And then we have a few resources here you can read Culturally Responsive Teacher. What do you need to know? You can watch a video, Windows and Mirrors, learning about difference and belonging through books. And then you can explore the racial justice guides and resources, which we'll explore this a little more in depth. But this is put out by, let's see, the Center for Racial Justice in Education. So we're going to take a look at this website a little bit more specifically with Thanksgiving and then winter holidays, but it's a really great resource for so many things. They have reading lists, they have resources to help you talk about race, racism, and racialized violence with kids, resources on immigration, Black History Month, winter holidays, and then Thanksgiving. So it's a really cool website with a lot of resources, and you could probably spend days looking at this website. So this is just kind of, if you're wondering where to start, this is a great place to go because it's just kind of a general overview. And then we get more specifically into Thanksgiving. And so we've got a module for that. Starting off with just, again, reflecting on your own practice within your classroom. And it can even be reflecting on your own practice at home. And if you have children, talking to your own kids, making this more personal for you. I included a video. And this video was pretty cool because I don't know if you've ever seen like these one-word videos where people are given a topic or a subject and they're supposed to respond their feelings in just one word. And so this one is on Thanksgiving, and it really, it looks at it from a Native American perspective and their thoughts on the holiday. And then we've included a couple resources here, including the one that Tarrant put together, which is Decolonizing Your Thanksgiving Curriculum. And this is the one that made me really start thinking about what I thought it meant to teach responsibly, and what it really means. And I think what's really great about this resource, they ran this webinar 3 different times. The one that I went to was the 3rd one, and it was packed still, even after running it for 3 times. They recorded the first one, and they've included the recording. So it's about an hour, and you can kind of go through and see the presentation. There were a lot of discussions that were done in breakout rooms, which I don't think are necessarily included here, but they give you the prompt questions. So it might be kind of cool to run through with teammates or colleagues, or thinking like affinity groups would be really cool. And they go through and they talk about different practices for how you can talk about and celebrate Thanksgiving. They talk about developing a classroom gratitude practice, exploring diversity of passed down traditions. Because if we really think about it, when we think about Thanksgiving, what does it mean as someone who celebrates Thanksgiving? What does that mean? I mean, we are looking at giving thanks and gratitude. We are looking at our traditions that are really important to us. But then it gets into the harder stuff. So exploring those myths that we hear, and really starting to teach the historical accuracy of Thanksgiving. And they give you so many resources, including the slideshow that they used for their webinar, which has links out to all kinds of resources, including books and things like that for all ages, which is really cool. Let's see, I included teaching Thanksgiving in a socially responsible way. This one comes from tolerance.org, Teaching Tolerance, which is a great website. They just kind of go through and give you different things to think about, things to watch, things to explore. And Teaching Tolerance has so many great resources, even beyond Thanksgiving. And then finally, looking back at the website that I said that we would go back into. Oh, this isn't even the right one. Okay. So, and then I included this one because it was geared a little bit more towards, I felt like, the younger kids. So talking about the harvest, talking about food and family, talking about gratitude. And then if you wanted to go deeper, that's where I put the Racial Justice Guide to Thanksgiving, because this is where you could get lost. So we'll let this pull up here.
So Corey, each of those that you just took us through, those are each options, so people can choose their pathway, right? Their option of how they want to learn some information.
I probably should make that a little more clear. Yeah, so I guess it depends on how much time you want to spend, but I would pick one, and maybe like pull up all 3 and see which one speaks to you, depending on what grade you teach. Different ones might speak to you in different ways. Or if you really want to spend time, explore all of them and then put in for your certificate at the end with the amount of time that you spent. But yeah, I would start with picking one. So this is the Racial Justice Guide to Thanksgiving from the Center for Racial Justice and Education. And I think that we've probably all seen this passed around in some form or another. There's a Google Doc that I saw passed around last year quite a bit on social media. And it basically just took all of these resources and put it in a Google Doc. But they break it out into different categories. So looking at it with Native Americans' perspectives, contributions, and celebrations, because the Native Americans have very different feelings on Thanksgiving than we do. And so how do they celebrate and what do they celebrate? Teaching approaches, including they do have lesson plans within here. Down here, lesson plans and study guides. Historical resources, resources for families, and then book lists, which I always think is really great for, especially for our younger kids. Sometimes some of these topics can be a little challenging for us to figure out how to teach them. I mean, how do we teach little guys some of the things that we think about Thanksgiving are not true. They're myths. That it was not necessarily this very happy celebration. That it is a holiday that holds a lot of hurt for a lot of people, and that can be kind of tricky to teach our little guys. So I think the books are really helpful with things like that. So I'm gonna bring us back. So those were, I'm finding it's like a rabbit hole. You can find so many wonderful resources out there. I think it's just a matter of knowing where to start. So I've tried to give us a couple places for good starting points. And then I think it's more than just teaching it once and being done with it. I think it's work that needs to continue year to year. Before Thanksgiving, after Thanksgiving. I mean, celebrating gratitude does not need to just happen during the month of November. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Corey. Those are amazing. Those are great resources, and you worked very hard on those. Thank you very much. I'm wondering, I'm thinking while I'm listening to some of these, as when I was a classroom teacher and the things that I taught or shared during this Thanksgiving time and how they don't align. And my first thought is negativity of, oh my gosh, I'm a horrible teacher for teaching this, right? So maybe we can each just take a minute to think about what it really means to shift from the thinking that we had in the past to this new idea. If anybody has any thoughts about that.
I think the one thing that always sticks with me, Jeannie Phillips from Tarrant always says this. She's like my person. I think about her all the time. That those feelings of discomfort in conversations like this means that you're learning. And if you're not feeling that discomfort, you're not learning and you're not becoming a better teacher. And I think it's so easy to stick with what we know. It's safe, it's comfortable, but we are doing ourselves and our students such a disservice.
Al, did you have something you'd like to share?
Good set of resources. I mean, I think it should be explored and looked into.
I like what you said, Corey. Jeannie is often in my brain too. And that's exactly the way it is. Like we have to feel a little bit uncomfortable to feel comfortable. Right? Well, there are some excellent resources out there. And if you explore those resources or you want any extra help, please reach out to one of us. We'd love to help you explore some of these things and get ready for the upcoming season.
And I think too, Jenny, just starting too with just having conversations with your colleagues. And, I don't think any of us would sit here and say we are experts. We are learning right alongside with all of you. But that we would be more than happy to come facilitate discussions or to find articles that we can have honest conversations around, so that we can start shifting our practice, so that we can really do right by our students.
Yeah, you're right too. It's a beginning. It's a starting to shift. You have to be at the finish line already and do this perfectly. So I think that's something to keep in mind. Yeah. Anything else?
I'm just trying to think about, it's such a big topic, and it's such a heavy topic. Like if teachers wanted to do one thing, I wonder what we could recommend that they start with, because I know as a classroom teacher, those traditions are like so important to me, and to students looking forward to what they get when they come into our classroom, and our parents, and that we need to start breaking away from some of those traditions. And so what can teachers do as a starting point?
Yeah. I mean, time shrouds everything in myth, right? And sometimes peeling back those layers of myth to get at reality is not an easy thing to do. It's a hard path to go down. But I think just picking a starting point and going is doing something.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I'm sorry, Corey. I just was thinking that, like, with early elementary, especially, you were saying how difficult this can be, and I thinking like just pick one book, one story, and read it and digest it a little bit for yourself, and then take that and use that as your tool for what one shift are you going to make? What's one change, one thing that you're going to do?
Yeah. And I'm thinking something that would be easy for all grade levels, maybe regardless. I mean, pre-K all the way up, is instead of focusing on the holiday itself, focus on what it stands for or what we want it to stand for. Instead of teaching about Thanksgiving, the first Thanksgiving, maybe instead it's looking at teaching gratitude and teaching cultural traditions. What does your family do? Because that's incredibly inclusive. Part of what I think struck me with the webinar that I did, it made me very uncomfortable because I was put into small groups, which I'm not comfortable with to begin with. But with strangers, talking about a really difficult topic. Not everyone celebrates Thanksgiving. It is not a holiday that is celebrated by everyone. And so if you think about those students that we have coming into our classrooms who may not celebrate it because their culture is different than ours, how do we celebrate in a way that includes everyone? And I think moving away from the first Thanksgiving and instead celebrating that gratitude and celebrating our customs and our traditions, and is something that every teacher can do. And then thinking, Jenny, you said the books, that brings into play so many books beyond the first Thanksgiving, and Native Americans. It can bring in giving thanks from many cultures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the gratitude and I think too, like maybe one place that we could reach out to for some support is our guidance counselors. I'm thinking, I know that the guidance counselor I'm used to working with the most, she has tons of resources on gratitude and thankfulness and tradition and family and that kind of idea. So, reach out to your guidance counselors, your librarians, and as Corey said, you said before, your colleagues, because they may have resources that you're not familiar with or ideas.
And I think for teachers too, not just classroom teachers, but anybody, if you have resources that we have not touched upon, email us. We would love more resources. I think the more that we can compile, the better. Lesson plans, activities. If you do something in your classroom that goes along with us, reach out to us and let us know so that we can start building the resources to help each other with this work.
Yeah, we'd love to share and tell stories too. So we love to come in and if we could take pictures or post things and share with others what you're doing, that would be great. Because we know you guys are doing amazing things out there. All right. You can tell this is a tough topic.
It is a tough topic. And I think honestly, to get started, right? It might feel really intimidating and daunting to some to just pick even a book and then bring it into your classroom. So maybe even before that, you start with some self-reflection and go through that. You may not be quite ready this year to even jump off because you don't know what you don't know. But getting into these resources and then doing a little bit of self-reflection, maybe that's the place to start, and then move forward from there with what you discover about your own ideas, your own traditions, the reason for your own traditions. I think, Thanksgiving in the United States is a declared national holiday, but my own personal culture from my dad's side, I'm third generation American. So back at the beginning of the 20th century, my family was celebrating more along the lines of their own cultural traditions, which all stemmed from the harvest time. And again, being thankful for what you have, being thankful for what was provided in that harvest. They were a group of farmers, and so that's the approach that we would have taken with that holiday. And of course, it's all about sitting down and enjoying what you harvested. So you share a meal with your family and you talk and you enjoy each other's company in the end of a hard season. But some of that self-reflection can bring you to those places where you begin to understand, oh yeah, there's other things out there. We don't have to just mention these stories. There's a lot to explore and learn about. So that self-reflection, that's a great way to start.
That's a great way to start. Thanks for reminding of that, Al. All right. Well, if we have nothing else to share right now, then we hope you enjoy this yeah, I'm not doing a podcast right now, guys. That was the other day.
All just blends together at some point.
It sure does. So thank you for joining us for Coffee and Coaches. And we will see you next week, and reach out if you need anything. Thanks, everyone.
All right, bye.